again, good to see everybody. And what we'll do is, as you know, with the recording, we will make sure to send it out on our social media platform so that who wasn't able to make it this morning can join us. But I am going to turn it over to you, Lisa. You can take it away. Please do introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then go right into what you're going to share with us this morning regarding, you know, what tips you'd like to share about what we need to know as we resume operations in this new world of ours.
Yeah.
Our speaker this morning, really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Anytime I can, you know, get face to face. In this case, I don't know what you want to call it, but you know, over my career at Paychex, I've been super accustomed to being out and about in Jersey City, in Hudson County. I don't care if it was North Bergen, but just being out there, meeting people, going to networking events. I was always a huge fan of the chamber events, whether it be like a happy hour or some type of, you know, grander event that you would hold at Maritime Park. So definitely excited to at least be here and be in front of all of you. So pleasure to meet you all. So I have been with Paychex for about 15 and a half years now. I've done, my first 5 years were in operations, and my past 10 have been in sales, consulting, pretty much dealing with all types of businesses and all types of different industries, typically focusing on businesses that are 50 employees or more. But obviously we have solutions for every single type of business and business size. So yeah, pretty much my career at Paychex has been my entire career in general. As soon as I got out of college, I went straight to Paychex, and they've been excellent, great resource in helping businesses start up or grow or just maintain what they currently have in place and help with automation. So I am going to share my screen.
Also, while you do that, if everybody else can just go on mute unless you have a question, that also helps with the sound quality.
Okay, here we go. Share. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. So this is just an outline of the agenda of the different areas I'm going to be covering today. So some considerations before resuming or as you continue to resume. I know that many people obviously at this point have been resuming business. It hasn't been at a halt, but obviously, you know, as Maria kept saying, it's our new norm now, so things to be mindful of. Workplace safety and privacy considerations, and supporting employees as they return. Then we'll go over some of the resources that we have for you within Paychex and just in general. And I am going to try to move this box out the way. Let me see if I can, okay, there we go. Okay, so I know one of the areas that we just spoke about was the fact that, you know, most people have been working remotely. I will say that Paychex has over 14,000 employees, and as of right now, no one is still back in the office. And yeah, and in speaking about, you know, commercial real estate, the interesting thing that Paychex did was they actually shut down all of their New Jersey locations. So this is my permanent office right now until we can actually get out. So it's definitely an area that most businesses have been considering whether they should bring people back, whether they should have people work from home. So really just ensuring you have some type of a plan drafted up with who will be in the office, who will be working remotely, having timing there, just to ensure that you're taking the correct processes as you start that official return back to the office. And then you just want to be cautious of how you're doing it. You want to make sure that all the decisions aren't violating any federal, state, or anti-discrimination laws. So again, making sure that you have reasoning behind what you're doing, not just picking random people to work from home and then have certain people come back to the office. It's extremely important that you're mindful of that. When determining who should work remotely, be mindful of how that's going to happen. Obviously, if you're some type of manufacturing and you need people in the office, those people can't work from home. So just being extremely mindful of who can work from home, ensuring that they have the right tools, and just keeping in mind that the more people that can work from home, the less people you're going to have in the office. And I think that's sort of, again, using Paychex as an example, sort of a huge reason as to why we are still not in the office. And I will say, personally, I feel as though, as I've been speaking to businesses, I'm finding still a lot of people are working from home. And, in the state of New Jersey, I think that's been tremendous in helping to, stop the spread of germs a little bit. So,
I'm curious if you don't mind my asking, like, what have you seen from businesses in terms of getting employees back? Have some of them done, that is, have they done voluntary? Are they doing shifts where people come in, I don't know, based on last name or function, or I'm just...
You definitely don't want to do it randomly. It has to be a very, I guess, a careful combination of it. And then there's a lot of other factors that are coming up where, we're finding business owners are complaining that, some people don't want to return because they don't feel safe, or, like in my case, I have a 2-year-old here, they have their children. So there's a lot of different areas that you want to be mindful of as you're setting up that plan. But the main piece there is you want to set it up according to functionality. So who can truly work from home? Does your job allow you to do that? In my situation, I'm in sales. So by no means do I have to be in the office, but nonetheless, you want to be sure that the person has the right tools. You want to be sure that you're not discriminating against anyone. So that's why you really have to be careful of how you're recording everything and why you're making those specific decisions. Okay. So this sort of goes into a little bit of what you were just asking. So the decisions should be based on fact-based criteria consistent with your legitimate business needs. And you just want to be, it's everything. I think what we're finding now is, we're hearing about a lot of different lawsuits that are coming up. People either, being asked to come back to the workplace and that workplace not having the correct components in place to protect those people and them having a breakout, or someone, being let go because they refused to come back and they had reason behind their refusal. So right now is a very critical time where if business owners don't know what to do, that they seek the right resources and that they're taking the right measures as they continue this very, I guess, fragile process at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I know liability as well has continued to be a big question. If you bring people back, is business liable for what happens if there is a breakout?
Yes. And that's the big question mark, right? I don't think anyone's giving a straight answer. But what we are seeing is we're seeing an increase in lawsuits. I'll show you a document that in a second, but we were seeing a huge increase in OSHA visits. So whistleblowers within organizations, where they're not feeling safe and they're calling up the DOL or OSHA and them coming in. One of our HR generalists actually said that she saw from March to now, or it wasn't even now, it was March, I think, when she made that comment, it may have been in maybe June, that they saw more OSHA visits than they did for the entire past last year.
Yeah, sitting on the New Jersey, the governor's advisory committee for reopening, which had been meeting up through June. I was on the Main Street subcommittee. That was part of the discussion there, and we've also been working with the NJBIA, which is the Industry Association. They've been tracking this issue about liability, and you're right, nobody has a clear answer yet.
No. So it's just, I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to do their piece in trying to help prevent the spread of COVID and to protect people. I think, if that wasn't the case, people wouldn't be wearing masks when they're going to the grocery store. And everyone's doing it. I think we're a very fortunate state where we're all respectful of it. We see these cases popping up in Florida and different states where it's a big fight. No one wants to wear a mask. And I'm like, it's such a simple little process. Just put the mask on. It's not that much of a big deal.
Probably the most conservative approach is the best. Right.
Agreed. Completely agreed. So another area that we just spoke about was, some of the different reasons that people might give to not want to return back to work. Children's schools still being closed, which is huge, because I think the way that I'm seeing it progress is most children are still going to be in New Jersey are going to be learning remotely. I'm not sure if I've heard anything of what is Jersey City doing officially? Is it all remote or is it a combination?
I actually don't know, but I know that every municipality is sort of charged with looking at this themselves.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's based as well on what the local transmission rate is. I know in New York State, and I think both Governor Murphy and Governor Cuomo have been very good about doing their daily updates. So it's based on transmission rate in an area, that sort of that R naught number, which tells you how fast the community spread is, which is at like, I haven't found the number in New Jersey, but in New York it's like 0.24 now, which is 0.024. It's very low, basically.
Okay. I think I saw that too on the news the other day. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure New Jersey's got to be pretty low at this point too, just given what the trend has been the last 2 months. So, but I don't know. I haven't actually checked out what Jersey City is doing. Haven't looked into that.
Yeah.
New York, right? So Hudson County. Do you know what the public schools are doing in West New York?
So some of the public schools are doing hybrid, some students will go in person, others remotely. But I think the private schools are going remotely completely.
Yeah, makes sense. And I've been in contact with some of the schools. I work with a few charter schools in the Hudson County area, and I'm hearing a lot about just a staggered return, well, meaning that they have some students that are coming first half, and then in the afternoon they're going back home to do remote learning, and then in the afternoon those students are going to come in, and those afternoon students would have been doing the remote learning in the morning. So I think they're trying, but I guess we're really not going to see what happens until it starts to happen and see if it drastically increases or not. But it'll be interesting to see how things progress during the fall. But this reason, along with all of the other reasons, maybe having to take care of someone that has COVID, a lot of these circumstances are covered under the Family First Act and ADA or a sick leave act. So those are things as people are coming back and saying that as a business owner or an HR person or a CFO, you've got to be mindful that those are covered under different laws. So don't fire someone because they say that. A huge area as you start your new norm is truly ensuring that all of your internal policies and procedures are updated. So you definitely want to determine new COVID-related legal requirements. So OSHA has issued a whole set of new guidelines. If anyone doesn't have it, I can certainly send it over. But you just want to be sure that you're incorporating that into your handbook, your safety manual, any posters that you have up. You want to be sure that as you start to rehire your employees, that new hire packet is where it needs to be. Some people have furloughed people. Some people have to just let people go and might need to hire a whole new set of employees. So as you're doing that, you just want to be sure that all of your documentation is where it needs to be. Creating new policies and protocols. I mean, some businesses don't have a business continuity plan, or the newer one, the infectious disease plan. So these are all items that we may have not heard about in the past, that now is the time to ensure it's part of your internal policy and your handbook. Your handbook is huge during this time.
Can I ask a really quick question? And the word furlough has been, used since this started, but I just realized know exactly. I mean, I know what furlough means. Based on what exactly does it mean?
That's actually a good question. I assumed that it meant maybe, having someone not come in but still offering them certain types of benefits, as opposed, well, see, when I'm Googling it, it's saying layoff. Special needs, or maybe due to.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was similar to layoff or to your, if you're offering perhaps healthcare benefit. But
that's what I'm thinking. That's what I assumed, because between furlough. Because I've heard both terms constantly being used, and furlough being a huge one right now. So what I sort of assumed is the term furlough may be more relevant to what's going on right now. Obviously, there's a worldwide pandemic. So layoffs would be typically, maybe just a business not doing so well or going into bankruptcy, unfortunately, or just changing.
Right, but furlough is you're gone. You don't have a job now, but you'll have a job when.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm looking up here the difference, and it looks like the difference is when someone's furloughed, there's a definitive date of when they're going to come back to the office, and I think in this case that has to do a lot with the PPP loans that many businesses have taken. They have up until the end of the year. They have to bring those people back in order to take advantage of that forgiveness of the loan. So I think that's why we're hearing furloughed a lot. And then in addition, they retain their employment rights and generally their benefits. Yeah. So I think the benefits are key there. When someone's laid off, it's like, okay, they sort of lose everything that they would have with that organization. But good question, though, because that's what I assume. So good to know that's what it actually means. So you also want to determine your benefits that you currently have. Now's a great time to evaluate certain things. As I'm speaking to businesses, one of the struggles that I'm hearing is with people refusing to come back to work. So it's very important now that you're offering those people a very attractive package. So some of the things, you might want to revisit your insurance plans, fringe benefits. So it can be something as simple as looking at an AFLAC plan, an FSA, a 401k. With 401ks right now, companies don't have to match. It's a great added benefit, but you don't have to match. But it's ideal to go to someone and give them a package. Okay, this is what we have internally as far as safety. These are our safety guidelines. This is what we've done as an organization to help protect you. And in addition, this is what we're giving you now to return back to work. So taking a moment and just looking at your entire benefits package that you can offer your employees. And we already spoke about the handbooks. That's definitely key, is that handbook. You want to ensure you have the right communication with your employees as they are returning back to work. So what's been referred to now as a recall letter, you want to have something in place to send to your employees as you're asking them to come back. And just very key that you're recording this all, because technically if you're offering someone back their job and they don't have a legitimate reason to not return. So again, the reasoning with having a child or maybe having someone sick, just them saying, well, I don't want to return because I'm taking advantage of unemployment has been a huge one. That technically shouldn't happen. So there is a certain process that the employer should follow if that's what they're running into, just reporting it back to the state. Because again, if an employee is taking advantage of unemployment, which has been very helpful, but if they're being offered their job at the same exact rate, they shouldn't still be taking the unemployment. So just being sure that you're recording everything that's going on, ensuring that, you're giving them that same pay rate. If the position is being changed, just ensuring that you are noting that as well.
Yeah,
And definitely an area for businesses to be mindful of, because again, we just spoke about the PPP loan. So really, they have to have a certain amount of their workforce returned by the end of the year in order to get that forgiveness amount. So it's very, very big.
Well, no, thank you for making that point, because that's actually one of the sort of cogs in the wheel, if you will, with regard to federal renewal of sort of ongoing stimulus that employees are using the really the CARES Act, the additional funding that was given for unemployment, as reasons not to go back to work. So.
Yeah. So that's going to be key. And again, I mean, since I can't get out, I've become a telemarketer in my house. So I'm talking to all types of businesses, and that's really what's keeping me going, is just having those conversations with people and having an understanding of what's going out there. And luckily, I will say, and you all know, I cover Hudson County. I also have part of Staten Island. But a good amount of the businesses I'm speaking to are back to work. Some are doing amazing right now. They haven't slowed down. So it's great to hear that the Hudson County area, from what I'm hearing, is doing well. I mean, I know there are certain industries that you really can't help that are still struggling. I know the restaurant business is probably still a huge area that's struggling, but I think in time we'll all get somewhere. So the second place is the second or third area here is probably one of the biggest. So safety and privacy considerations. So these are a lot of questions that I get asked too. So just some key of workplace safety, some key areas and just key measures that you can take that are very simple to help people feel comfortable and to truly help to stop the spread of germs. So staggering office hours, I've been seeing a lot of, so just having different shifts of different groups of people that are coming in and out. And sort of important I want to say, keep those groups of people together. That way, if God forbid there is an outbreak, you're reporting back to that same individual group as opposed to a whole, an entire population of people. Your workspace is also key. I'm seeing a lot of companies, putting up the plexiglass or just having, different cubicles and different areas. You just really want to avoid high traffic areas. I'm seeing some companies, putting up signs, so it's a one-way, so people aren't crossing paths as they're walking in that location, and then even just stopping certain areas. So if you have a break room or a lunch room, just telling employees to not go in there, just blocking it off completely so you don't have a large group of people gathering there. Sanitizing is an obvious one. Even consider having trainings for your employees, maybe if they're not aware of how to properly sanitize or how often to wash or how to wash hands. I mean, there's a whole science behind it now, washing down to your elbows and front and back and your nails and everything. So just being mindful of that and prohibiting employees from sharing things. So that may not be an area that you may have originally thought about, but if you have a stapler, even, the printer, a big area that I've heard about just working with businesses and being from a payroll company is the time clock. So a lot of employees are refusing to use a time clock because everyone's going up and they're punching in or they're putting their finger on it. There are a lot of options out there. One that we offer right now is a clock where you're just looking into the clock. You don't have to touch it. That's it. It just clocks you in. I know a lot of other companies out there are probably offering something very similar. But any area you see an employee is sharing office equipment, just being sure that you have some type of sanitizing going on there. Regular cleaning. I've been seeing businesses investing in filtration systems. There's the whole, certain type of UV ray that's able to disinfect. the other day I was in my local, well, not my local Stop and Shop, but one by my sister's house, and I'm walking in out the aisle, and I see this huge robot, just like, I'm like, what is that thing? And she's like, oh, it's sanitizing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But it's great to see things like that because, again, businesses out there are taking the measures that they need to take. I know it's easier for a larger organization like a Stop and Shop, but there are, many affordable ways to look at trying to sanitize that office area. So this is just a document that I brought up. Typically when I bring this up, I again share the fact of how the OSHA visits have tremendously increased. So just being mindful that if you're not taking the proper procedures and precautions to protect people, they can come in and they can shut you down. They can fine you. So it is very, very important that it's taken seriously. And again, in speaking to people, I do feel that everyone is, but it's just something to be mindful of. Safety equipment, this has been a huge one, and I've heard different things. I've heard businesses, people say, oh, we just come in and we sit here, we're not close to each other. That's fine. If you're close, you want to make sure that you have the mask, gloves, and as an employer, just be mindful if you're requiring people to wear it, even if the state is requiring, you must provide those to your employees. You can't expect them to buy the gloves and the masks. You should be offering that to them. Wellness checks have been a big thing. So you can certainly, as an employee coming in, I've seen different, systems where they're walking in and taking their temperature right away, but you can certainly take that measure if you want to, just to, it's an extra level there to ensure that they're not sick, because sometimes, again, they may not know. I know one organization I've been working with, they deal with older patients, a rehab center, and every Wednesday morning they're doing the wellness checks. So that's key. You can definitely do temperature checks. It is allowed. You can also do COVID tests. So that is a huge area as well. And this is a very gray area also, I feel like. If you're an employer and you want to do a COVID test on the employee, you can. They sell them out there. Paychex sells them. There's a lot of other companies that are selling the COVID tests. So the way it typically works is everything gets sent to the employee. They're able to administer the test themselves and then mail it out, and they can get the results. That all takes time. If you're asking an employee, and you have to be cautious, again, I always say seek legal advice or from your HR department, but you have to just be very cautious if you're asking the employee to go to their doctor and get tested. You want to make sure that you're not violating any HIPAA law. Technically, you're not supposed to ask them, oh, did you go to your doctor and are you positive for COVID? You can ask for a doctor's note clearing them to return to work, but you have to be very, very cautious of how you're asking them. Which brings us to medical privacy. You want to be sure whatever records, this is huge, whatever records, medical records you're getting from the employee, you keep everything confidential. If an employee tests positive or is diagnosed, you want to definitely let the other employees know, but you should not be revealing the identity of the employee with the results. Clean, of course, as much as you can. Follow your local CDC, your local guidelines, whatever your internal guidelines are. And then, unfortunately, key as well is if you've had an entire department in contact with that person, everyone needs to be sent home for the 14 days. I think this is like an area I've seen the schools struggle with as well. I think maybe in the South we've been seeing like half of the school having to be quarantined now because of, one or two people coming back positive. So that's an area of concern. It's definitely an area that businesses should have a plan for. What happens if someone comes back and is positive with COVID? What are you going to do? You can't just send that one person home. You have to take those measures to see who else was in contact somehow with that person. And that may be an area of struggle, I feel like, as things progress. supporting your employees as they return back to work. So managing remote teams is a huge one. As mentioned, Paychex has over 14,000 employees, and everyone's working remotely. So you want to be sure that you set the right process, ensure that they have the right tools, maybe a nice employee portal or just some type of portal where you're able to effectively communicate with the employee. You're able to effectively share projects and deadlines. You want to be sure that you're recording those work hours correctly. So now since the employee's working from home, they don't have access to a time clock. So maybe giving them some type of portal where they can clock in and out, but being sure that you are tracking those hours because, again, if someone's working overtime, I mean, you're working from home, it's very easy to get, 30 minutes extra in every single day, and that equates to overtime where the employee should be paid if they're an hourly employee. Having these great Zoom tools and Webex is also great. And just some areas to consider. It's being someone that works from home is important. You want them to still feel like part of the team. You want them to feel motivated. So just being in constant communication with them, but I think also being mindful that you're not, over-managing people. Addressing employee fears. Another piece of your benefits package that you may want to consider is an EAP, so an employee assistance program, where they're offered all over the place. Paychex offers one. It gives some great tools because typically an EAP will provide the employees with a teledoc option. They'll provide them with counseling sessions. So if people are struggling with anxiety or fears, they have someone that they can reach out to that's not their manager, because you need someone that's there to help besides the company itself. Within the organization, you should identify contacts who are like those COVID go-to people. I've seen businesses now hire a COVID rep. So just someone that can be like their go-to if something happens, and I'm assuming it's probably a temporary type of position, but whether it be an HR person or some type of a manager, but a person that's going to be in charge of it all, sharing copies of your safety protocol. So a story I heard internally was about a doctor's office where he was trying to get some people back. One woman refused because she didn't feel safe, and she asked the doctor, well, what plans do you have in place to protect me? Can I see them? He really didn't have anything. So she refused. He fired her, and now she's coming back with a lawsuit because he shouldn't have done that. So you have to be cautious, and you do have to take those extra measures to help your people feel safe as they're returning. Consider any type of COVID training. There are tons of trainings that are being offered out there. So again, whether it be just best practices or trainings for managers, that's also key for those larger organizations that have different managers. You want to have all those managers trained on what to do if someone comes and says that they have COVID or someone's complaining about not feeling safe because someone's coughing. You should create a very specific process for that and ensure that those managers are following it across the board. And then, of course, very important, maintain an open door policy to hear employee concerns and do your best to address them. So I think it's a big question mark for us all. As things progress and as people come back, you'll hear more and more feedback. Handling complaints and refusals to return back to work. So again, these are some of the areas that businesses might hear as they continue their process. So health conditions, maybe having an elderly person or someone with underlying health conditions that do not want to come back to work, caring for someone with COVID, the whole school and daycare issue, and just overall concern about their safety. A lot of these reasons are covered under these different acts. So your ADA, your sick leave, your FMLA, these are all areas that are covered under these different laws. So just be mindful of that again as you're hearing all of these different reasons for not wanting to come back to work. And then I can definitely forward this over to you after this, but we do have an entire area of just different links. These are government resources that we can share for businesses to go on. There's a lot of support out there. There definitely is, and I'm sure that businesses are taking advantage of this. But there's many areas that you can go to take a look at the law or just some recommendations for best practices. The SBA right here, planning and responding to COVID. EEO hiring during COVID. So there's an entire, and I'm sure as the chamber, you guys also, I'm sure, have an entire area. I've seen them come through, and I sort of joke. I was joke with my manager because in the beginning of this entire thing, we're reaching out to businesses and letting them know, listen, we're here if you guys have questions, if you need help, if you need guidance. And eventually we're like, you know what? We're seeing emails from Macy's with links for COVID assistance. So I know everyone out there is definitely trying to help. We have our own resources. So a COVID Help Center, which really gives a lot of detail about some helpful processes to follow as people return back to work. We have a very nice PPP loan application. Well, that's gone at this point, but the loan forgiveness estimator is a very useful tool that we have. So an area that businesses can go on to key in their information, and it'll just really show how much more should be allocated toward payroll in order to take full advantage of that forgiveness amount. Podcasts, there's just an entire area. I mean, I'm constantly trying to post up on LinkedIn just different videos and Webexes that will help people. And then the last area just speaks sort of about Paychex's HR support. So Paychex, while we do offer payroll services, an area that many businesses may have not been aware of is that we can help with HR. And you do not have to be a payroll client in order for us to help you with this. So what we've been doing right now with many, many businesses is they've been opting for our HR Solutions service, which provides businesses with an HR generalist. And right now, COVID has been the top area. So they're coming in, they're doing a full assessment, they're looking at the safety manual, they're looking at the handbook, they're looking at the internal processes, they're getting the managers trained, they're training the employees. So they're really doing a lot of that heavy lifting for business owners and CFOs and HR directors so they can really focus on the other areas and aspects of their business. So it's been a huge area and just been a great talking point, especially for me as I sit here in my basement telemarketing every day. So thank you all. Any questions for me at all?
Just one question about the HR services, like EAP plans. Is that something that you also offer to small businesses to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Paychex, I mean, I specifically work with mid-sized businesses, so 50 plus, but I have a partner that works with small businesses, so 1 to 50. I don't know if you remember my older partner, Mike Nielsen. He was a gentleman that would always come with me to the networking events. He was sort of my go-to person. So yes, it does not matter business size, and we're actually finding that this type of service is more ideal for that smaller business. So for the businesses that have a handful, maybe to 70, 80 employees, those are the ones that don't have something in place. I just recently worked with an auto body dealership that has 4 locations across New Jersey and New York. And they didn't have anything in place for HR. And he's like, I'm the manager, my father owns this. We just want to do what we can to help our employees feel safe. So it was a perfect fit for them. But that HRG is just key in the process and just ensuring, they're trained. They're experts. Most of them have been with Paychex for, I want to say, at least 8 years. So they really know their ins and outs, and Paychex has done a phenomenal job in trying their best to keep us updated and keeping those HR generalists trained as things change every single moment, I think, at this point.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. This has been really an update. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, and hi, Silvana. I see you joined. Good morning. Does anybody have any questions for Lisa? No? I asked a lot of questions, so sorry if I took up some of your.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's what I'm here for. And, I know, like Marty, yourself, I'm sure that you are all working with other businesses out there. So if questions are coming up or you feel that people might need help, I'm definitely there as a resource, whether it just be to run questions across or further assistance needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think New Jersey has a great site they've been maintaining from the beginning and constantly updating with information and with guidelines on what businesses need to do to reopen. So
Agreed.
if anybody needs that's it. All you need to do is Google New Jersey State COVID resources. It'll take you right to the site. It's also listed on our site. As you mentioned, I think tons of information has been pushed out by various organizations, including ourselves. So hopefully no one at this point is at a loss as to where to find it.
I hope so. I hope so.
So yeah, we would love to get this presentation so we can also push it out. That would be great.
Yep, I will send it right over to you.